right, you guys, it's episode 49 of War Stories. And without further ado, you already know, I'm going to need to change up this opening, man. I'm surprised you guys ain't banked on me yet. Been like, hey, B, you need to change up that opening, homeboy. That shit's getting played out. You guys are brutal in the comments, so don't think I don't know what you're thinking or what you're thinking. Anyway, check it out. It's Friday. Last night I was going to run a live either last night or I was going to hit you guys on Sunday. But you know what? I figured I'll just do it Sunday. I got a raffle going right now anyway, so there's a couple things I need to update you guys on. So look for me to go live Sunday. In the meantime, in between time, you guys been blowing up the comments, asking me to drop some war stories. So I'm going to accommodate. Why? Because that's what I do. So let me try to get into a couple of them. My intentions are to get out 2 or 3 to you guys right now while it's early Friday. However, we'll see what happens. Now, this is a good one right here, because not because it's a bang bang shoot 'em up, one of those kind of war stories. There's a lot of politics that are involved. It's a complex situation that I learned when I was coming up. It was an experience that, you know, I might not have made the right decisions at the time when I was faced with these circumstances. However, I made the choice that I did, whether it was good or bad, right or wrong. And I'm going to tell you guys what happened. I expect to get a lot of feedback on this. I'm sure that even if you're not a Northerner, if you were, you know, white or Sureño or Africano or whatever, and, you know, you've done some time in prison, I'm sure a lot of you have been put in similar situations where there was an alliance somewhere, or, you know, there was some type of a bond or something, and you guys had to make choices based on the circumstances. I said a whole lot of nothing right now. You guys are probably like, what the hell is he talking about? You'll understand, trust me. And I'll get into it more towards the end, because I do want you guys to give me some feedback and tell me, hey, B, you know what? You shouldn't have did that, or B, you know what? This is what I would have done, or B, I was faced with a similar situation and this is what happened. Or, you know what? You did what I would have did. So anyways, check it out. I'm going to take you guys back to 1996, between 96 and 97. Now, let me just kind of lay out the scenery. Let me kind of give you guys a little bit of background so you can understand what was going on at that time. So between 96 and 97, I had just paroled from Pelican Bay. At that time, I was celled up with Big Roach from San Francisco. And between from 95, 96 to 99, I was up under Conejo. We were in C5 at that time. But Conejo was my channel. He was my channel for many years, probably around 5 or 6 years. And yes, this is the same Conejo from Sacramento that got caught up in Operation Quiet Storm. However, at that time, back in 97, 96, he wasn't in a wheelchair, so I couldn't pop his tire. But it's the same Conejo. Anyway, so I just paroled from Pelican Bay. I got out. I probably stayed out, I want to say 3, 4, 5 months. Back in those days, I couldn't stay out for shit. I would try to stay out, and like every other time, my purpose was to build, get out. Every time I paroled, basically from 92 on, I got out and plugged into a regiment. I always worked every time I got out on the streets. So that was my purpose at that time, was to build. And for once, I was in San Francisco when I paroled. I wasn't in Monterey County, Sonoma County, Santa Rosa, Salinas, Ukiah, Mendocino County. For once, I was in my neck of the woods. I was in San Francisco. This was before Frisco decided to kick me up out of their county. So, you know, I paroled. I got out the Bay. I paroled. I was out there for a couple months. I tried to get things up and running. However, I've told you guys this before, nothing really materialized out there at the time, you know, because of just a lack of resources and a lack of interest from a lot of homies out there that did not want to function. And on top of that, again, I couldn't stay out for no more than a couple months. You know, back back in those days, parole was a lot different than what parole is nowadays. You guys got it made. You guys that are on parole right now, I wouldn't even call it parole. I couldn't look sideways without getting 11 months, 12 months, 10 months. I got nothing under 10 months for anything I did. And it was flat time because my controlling case was violent. You guys with these flash violations and these turnarounds, and man, it's crazy. You guys don't even report to a parole officer. You guys are reporting to probation officers that are not even versed in dealing with parolees or those type of individuals. They're used to dealing with probationers. But, you know, that's another story. It's just crazy. You know, when I think about it, I'm telling you guys, every time I had two numbers and both numbers 4 years apiece, I probably did a little over 3 years, close to 3.5 years of that time behind the walls, back in custody, because I could never stay out. And parole rolled me. They did not want me on the streets. What I used to get caught up for most of the time was gang association. Sometimes I was struggling with my addiction. It was a dirty bottle. Or when I was running around out there in Frisco, I would get caught for a robbery or something like that. That was my MO back in those days. That's what I used to do. And like I told you guys before, Frisco was one of the most liberal counties in the state of California, at least back in the 80s and 90s when Kamala Harris was the head DA out there. You know, I don't know about nowadays, but back then they used to catch me dead bang in the act, slam dunk. I wouldn't have a chance in court, but they used to kick the case. You know, they used to figure this dude's on parole. We'll just dump the case and let CDC deal with him. We'll save some money. His butt goes to jail, or he goes to custody. He stays locked up and everybody's happy. That's how they used to do it. I'm telling you, time and time again. But, you know, I don't know how it is nowadays, how it is out there in Frisco, but back in those days, it was liberal. Anyway, so I get out, and for whatever reason, I caught a violation, whether it was for a dirty bottle. I can't remember exactly that far. I caught so many violations, and we're talking over 20 years. So, you know, whatever it was, I ended up back in custody. So, you know, I go back to the county jail, and I do remember this, though, because from 96 to 99, I caught one case, and I wasn't there for that case. But, you know, I caught this violation. So I'm housed on the 7th floor at that time. And, you know, let me give you the schematics, because the 6th floor and the 7th floor are completely different. I've told you guys a little bit about the 6th floor and some other war stories that I had and kind of how it was set up. So let me just give you a little bit of rundown on how the 7th floor is, because it is pertinent to this story. Anyway, so on the 6th floor, you got some big ass tanks. That's mainly everybody that's coming in. They're coming in off the streets. A lot of these dudes, they still got their regular street clothes on. I told you guys this before. You're able to, you know, they used to allow you to wear your street clothes and carry money on you, $30 cash in your pocket. So you guys can imagine it was robbery. It was all kind of shit going on. Robberies, muggings, blanket parties, all kind of shit was happening in the county jail at that time. But so you got these big tanks, and you got A, B, C, D, E, and F tank, and it goes all the way down. So the tanks are like, there's anywhere from, they could be up to like 60 cats in one tank. So when you go in, they got the tables in the middle, and then on both sides, it's compartmentalized. Like you got 4 smaller tanks inside the big tank. Those are the housing areas, the bed where the beds are. So each one of those little tanks got a door. When they feed you or you come out in the daytime, they pop those doors. So that comprises the whole tank. You got motherfuckers sleeping on the floor, but in each one, I want to say it's between 12 and 16 cats. There's 12 to 16 beds in each one. So that's how the 6th floor is set up. The 7th floor is completely different. So when you're standing in front of a tank, it's split down the middle. on the left side, you have the beds. There's probably, I want to say it's 12 or 16 in those tanks. And then on the other side of the gate, you got like two tables. It's one or two tables. You got a shower, a couple phones, and a TV. That's how it's set up. In the morning time, when they open up program, they open up that gate, come out. So it's a little different. Everybody up there is dressed out in county jail garb. So, everybody got orange garb on it or county jail clothing. So the thing about the 7th floor is this. It's like classification didn't exist, or they just didn't do their job, or they just didn't care, because on the 7th floor, they used to house sureños in general population, but they used to keep them in the front. I know it's kind of hard to explain what I mean by the front, but just on one side of the tier. Northerners would be up on the other side, closer to the gym and where the office is at. So the office where all the COs are usually at. They would very rarely make a mistake of putting you in the same tank together. But now this is the thing. So whenever you would go to a visit, that's usually when you would have the chances of running into a sureño or somebody that you had issues with were more likely to happen. On visiting, whether you went to a visit or to gym or to like a doctor visit or to an attorney interview or something like that, whenever you come out on that tier, that's when you have a chance to run into somebody, because they just come down and open up the gates. They're not asking who you affiliated with, who you run with. They don't do none of that. So, when I used to be housed on the 7th floor, the thing about it is every time I got me a Bonnaroo shot, a bottom bunk with a nice TV shot and just tucked away, comfortable, in a cool little spot, I'd end up going out on a visit and I'd run into somebody and I'd have to do my thing. And, whenever you get into a physical altercation, they throw you in ADSEG for 5 days and then they bring you back. But, you come back and you got to start all over. You're back up on the top bunk, and you got to wait until somebody catches a bus, leaves, or somebody, ends up getting out on bail or something like that to get you another bottom bunk TV shot. So, man, I used to dread it. Every time I got set up and cool, something else would happen. I'd be like, damn, man, here we go again. So, the funny thing about it is, well, I'll get to that in a minute. So, anyways, I've talked about this before in the past, but I'm gonna emphasize this again. When it came to the alliance between the Northerners and the Africanos, I was somebody that really took that alliance serious. I embraced the Africanos like they were part of us. And a lot of them, I had real close bonds with. A lot of them I trusted more than I would trust some of my own people, as far as putting in work, or as far as getting my back in certain situations, or going to war, or just different scenarios like that. There were some that were just laced up, and a lot of them were BGF members. However, there were Crips, there were Bloods, there was just 4-1 cats from Kumi, or just regular Bay Area Africanos, period. A lot of the times it was on a case-by-case basis, how an individual conducted themselves. That's basically how I would end up bonding with somebody. If they were, kind of a wildcat, they weren't really, schooled or like-minded, I just kind of I wouldn't really gravitate towards them. But there was a lot of them that I really got close with and who I had a lot of respect for, an immense amount of respect for. Now, like I said, I took the alliance serious. I went as far as learning how to speak Swahili when, I was through the years of going through the SHU program and studying Swahili when I was studying Nawa, so I do know how to speak Swahili, not fluently, but enough. You guys want to hear? I bet you do. Abarigani gukaskasini dugo wewe pata. I'll never hear the last of everlasting base on that one. Yeah, bro. I know you got something to say. Either you or Themo, one of you guys got something to say. Gonna have something to say about it. Anyway, so I took that alliance serious, and anytime there was conflict in prison with opposition at that time. I know things have kind of changed. I was always I always embraced them, the Africanos. I always had their back. Especially like I said, the ones that were educated. There were some that were educated by old school NF members, old BGF members that had been around for years. Were actually schooled by some of the older NF members that you guys have heard stories about in the past. So a lot of them, like I said, they were like-minded. They as far as their security, their mentality, how they, some of the policies that they lived and died by out there on the yards, they functioned like us, so I had a lot of respect for them, and I took it serious, and that extended out to the streets. That the love and respect that I had for a lot of them, I carried that with me outside of prison and went to the streets. Whenever I would run into Africanos in the county jail, I always embraced them like that. But the crazy thing about it is that a lot of them that hadn't been to prison, that haven't been exposed to those type of politics, they wouldn't reciprocate. I wouldn't get that same kind of love and respect back from them. Just that same respect, because again, they weren't educated, which is understandable. Most of them were youngsters, so it was kind of crazy. Again, it was a case by case basis. So my point in talking about all this is, so I'm on the 7th floor, and there's a lot of Kumi cats up there. A lot of them I'd known from juvenile. A lot of them I'd known from the streets. I went to school with them. San Francisco, there's a lot of Africanos out there. You guys know that. So, I had a lot of friends that were Black. But, being in the county jail now, this is 96. I'm an NF member by then. I'm seasoned. I'm familiar with politics. I've functioned. I've been on tiers with a lot of BGF members. I know how they function. I know how they think. And, so I'm well versed in not just their politics, but, how to function with them. So I'm on the 6th floor or the 7th floor. And, I extend my embracements to the Kumi cats that are up there. And there was a lot of them. Mainly, there was a lot of Kumi up there. Very rarely would you get a BGF member that would come through. They were thinned out by then. So on this particular time when I was up there, one came through. And he was right across the hall from me. So, we basically touched base with each other, and we used to get at each other, across. He was just directly across the hall. So I would call him to the gate, or he'd call me over there, and we chop it up. And I kind of keep them. There wasn't really that much politics that were going on in the jail at that time, to where we really had to talk about politics with, whether it was opposition or just things that were going on in there, because there wasn't nothing happening. But with the exception of like some wild youngsters or just issues like that would develop. So, most of the time when we be talking, we just chop it up. Well, I don't know what it stemmed from, but he ended up getting into a conflict with the other Kumi. Now, I've seen it over the years. I've seen this, this relationship between Kumi and Jama. I've seen it kind of at times get kind of testy, where it was almost like little brother didn't want to listen to big brother anymore. Kind of like with the NR, what happened with the NR and the NF. It seemed like some of that was happening with the Kumi and Jama. A lot of the Kumi members were of the mindset of, we don't take direction from you no more. We're our own entity, and we function independently. We don't take direction from you guys. We're not subordinate. So that's the impression that I got. from a lot of them that I ran into in prison. I've seen it in the county jails where they just had some type of animosity. Now, whether it stemmed from something else personal, I don't know. At this time, I had I had a pedazo already put up and secured in the tank that I was in. So I always kept one, in the event that I needed one. There's part of my security. It was always mandatory, to always have a pedazo up there. Now, at this time, there wasn't no homies on the 7th floor, at least in that tank. Very rarely would somebody come through, another homeboy. We'd be in the tank together. I don't know why, as big as San Francisco is, as big as those, as many homies as there is out there, it was just highly unlikely that you land in the tank with another homie over there. And when you did, it was like, damn, this is crazy because it don't never hardly ever happen. Anyway, so I was in that tank by myself. That's I'm making that point for another reason. And there wasn't any other homies that I can remember that were in the vicinity that I was communicating with, that, the 7th floor at that time, it wasn't established. I was like one of the only ones there. It wasn't established. There was nobody there. So anyway, a conflict developed between this BGF member and some Kumi cats. Now, one of the main ones, I remember his name. His name was Bags. He was from EPA, East Palo Alto. And there was some kind of animosity in there. I used to be on the phone in my tank mostly all the time, but I would always keep my head on a swivel, watching, what was happening across the hall in their tank, just watching the tier outside of anybody walking by or anybody coming in. It was mandatory. It was just by habit. Anyway, so, I'm looking over there and I can see that there's obviously tension. The body language is telltale. I seen that, everybody was standing up over there and they were kind of getting loud. So at one point, this cat, the BGF member, I remember his name. I'm just not going to throw him out there for obvious reasons, but he calls me to the gate. So, I'm talking on the phone. I put the phone down and I go to the gate and I'm like, "What's up, homie?" And he's like, "Hey, check it out, bro. I need a key suit." And I'm like, "All right. How you want to get it?" And for those of you that don't know what a kisu is a piece. It's a knife. It's in Swahili. So, I don't hesitate. I tell them, "When do you need it? You need it right now?" It's like, "Yeah, I need it right now. I'm getting into a situation, man, and there's a threat, and I need to make sure that that I'm secure over here, man, because I ain't got nobody over here to watch my back, and it is what it is, right?" So, anyways, I go and get the piece. I throw it in a book or a magazine or something. I don't remember, or I might even have thrown it inside of a game, a chess game or something like that. So, I slide it to him and don't really think nothing of it. I get back on the phone. Now, this is where I'm gonna stop for a minute and kind of put this in perspective. Now, I know some of you are gonna weigh in and give me some feedback on this. Now, in retrospect, looking back on it, it's a complex situation because a part of me feels like I did the right thing because this was a BGF member, somebody that we had a strong alliance with, even though we had a strong alliance with Kumi and other Africanos, period. I felt like I did the right thing as far as giving him a piece and assisting him when he asked me. However, another side of me, in retrospect, when I think back on it now that I'm a little bit more knowledgeable and, have been able to evaluate it a little bit more, another side of me feels like, what? I should have stayed neutral. And I should have told him, "Bro, I want to assist you, but you're putting me in an awkward position because you guys are all allies. And for me to pick and choose, you're going to put me in a situation where it's going to end up getting me caught up." But not only that, I'm obviously giving him a piece so that he can stab another potential ally. So it's kind of complex. Now, the other thing is, it's kind of policy to assist them when we had that alliance, so what should I have done? Should I have not given them a piece? Should I have gave them a piece like I did? I'm interested to hear some of your guys' feedback. And I can, don't let me sway with, your take on this. Don't let me sway you either way, because what I want to say is this. I honestly think that I did the wrong thing back then. I think I should have stayed neutral because they were allies. It's a touchy situation. If it would have been anybody else, another group segment, without question, he had that piece coming. There would have been no question about it. There's nothing to think about. He's an ally. And, I would have assisted him the same way I did. But because this involves other Africanos, I'm putting myself in a position to where it can cause conflict with me. And with, if there would have been other Norteños up there with me on the 7th floor, they would end up getting pulled into this as well because of the choice that I made, the choice to give him a piece. The Africanos up there, they could have been like, hey, the Northerners assisted this fool, you know what I'm saying? And this cat ended up stabbing such and such. So, you know what, man? Hey, we need to take off on all these cats. So it's a complex situation. Like I said, a lot of you that have done time, maybe you were in a similar situation. Maybe there was, whether it was a Sureño and maybe a Mexican Mafia member, Sureño wanted to take off on a Mexican Mafia member. Maybe it was some white guy that just a regular would, and you had an AB and you're white yourself. Similar situations. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a Northerner, but where you kind of had to step in, and these are all your allies, but you choose to assist one of them. Now, let me make this clear. At least back then, I would have made the same choice under the circumstances if the tables would have been turned, if it would have been one Kumi and a bunch of BGF members that were posing a threat to this one individual. It's not like I was playing favoritism because he was BGF. He was Africano. I mean, and I dealt with the situation according to the circumstances, and the circumstances where he was by himself. And, these guys were deep and they were getting ready to pack him out straight up. Well, so I slide him the piece. He gets the piece. I get back on the phone. And, I told him too, hey, keep this between me and you before I slid it to him. And, man, whatever you do, don't let nobody see you take this up out of here when you get it, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to get involved in that because it's a delicate situation, man. He understood. He's like, I got you. I know what you mean, bro. I got you. So anyways, he gets the piece and, he's got it on him. So things continue to escalate over there. I'm back on the phone and I'm talking, but I'm watching. And at one point, they're in there yelling, arguing, getting loud. At one point, you got cats standing on the benches and shit. And, it turned into just a yelling match. And then they slammed the gate shut so that, this dude couldn't walk into the bed area. Basically, he had to stay out there in the day room where there was like 8 other cats that were all looked like they were getting ready to pounce on this cat. So it continues to escalate until finally it kicks off. It kicks off. Out comes the Perazo, and, they get on him. He starts sticking a couple of them, and they pack him out. They end up dogpiling this cat. They take the piece from him, and they start hitting him with the piece. He gets lucky, though, because as soon as that happened, by then, there's so much racket, so much chaos going on. The COs, they hear it. So they come rushing down. They pop the gate open. They go up in there. They split everybody up, lay them out, and then they take, the They take that one cat out, and then they start taking everybody else out one at a time. So they put them all up front. There's like a big multi-purpose room by the gym that they use for like when you're getting ready to go to court, or in the morning when they're doing transportation. That's where they put everybody. It's like just a big holding tank. So they go in the tank, they search it, they tear it up. Later on, after they get through searching it, they bring everybody back. They bring them all back in, they all file in, and they ended up rolling up a couple cats. I noticed that a couple of them didn't come back, including the BGF member. So nothing happens that night. Nobody says nothing. It was just what ended up happened, and the day ends up just, program comes to an end, basically shut down, fall out, go to sleep, wake up in the morning. So, when I think about it, what ends up probably happening after thinking about it is that, these Africanos at one point, they started talking about the events that happened, because nobody approached me about it, about giving them a piece or anything like that. But, they probably started talking about it. Whoa, right? Where do you get the piece? Where do you get the piece, and just everything that happened? And then they probably just went over the events and remembered, that transaction. Hey, we remember right before old boy was talking to old boy across the way, and then he slid him a book. That was the piece right there. So anyways, what ends up, that's my guess. That's probably what happened, is that's how they figured it out. They just started putting their heads together, and it kind of just, one thing kind of led to another, and they kind of figured it out. Well, later on that day, there's an Africano out of Fillmore that I know. I've been knowing him for years, since we were kids, and he calls me to the gate. He's over there in that same tank. He was actually one of the ones that ended up stomping this cat out. So he calls me to the gate, and he's like, "Hey, B," he's like, "check it out, homie." He's like, "Man, I've been knowing you for years. We've been knowing each other since we were kids, man. I got a lot of respect for you, straight up." He's like, "But I'm gonna be honest with you, homie. My boys, my people, they're kind of upset with you, man, and why." He don't even ask me. He goes, "You know why, B?" You know what I'm saying? He was like, "I know how you are. I know, I've been knowing you for a long time, man, but I'm giving you a heads up, man, that these cats might try to take off on you, man, because they know you gave old boy that piece, that kisu." And when he's talking, I already knew when he called me to the gate what it was about. So I'm listening to him, but I'm evaluating this, trying to evaluate some damage control fast. I'm not going to insult his intelligence and tell him I didn't give him no peace. Everybody see me slide something to him, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out, when you think about it. Because, for one, they knew that dude did not have a piece in that tank. Those tanks they're so small and so confined that you can't do nothing in there without everybody seeing something, unless that fool got up under his blankets, took a rock up under there, and found a way to sharpen up that pedazo up under his blankets, or he took it in the shower with him. And I'm being lightweight funny, but I'm saying it would have been hard for him to have a pedazo up in there unless it was already made. He came in there with it without them cats seeing it. So they knew, hey, that was it right there. When old boy shot that over, that was the piece right there. So, I'm listening to him, and then I just tell him like this. I'm like, "Hey, look, man, tell you, whoever's tripping, they're going to do what they're going to do. But just tell them like this, man. Tell them I'm not involved. I'm not involved. That's between you guys. And as far as I'm concerned, all you guys are allies to me, man. And you already know how I am, man. And I had been to the joint with this dude, so he did know how I function. He knew I was an NF member. He knew, my get down since back in the day. So he was like, "Hey, bro, it's all good. I'm just putting you on notice, man, because I got love and respect for you still, even though it is what it is. But, I'm just letting you know, homie." So I'm like, "It's all good, man. I appreciate it, bro." So this is the thing. So as of from that point on, right there, I put myself on, well, I'm just going to say it. I didn't tell myself, you're on a full 60, but I was like, you know what? From this point on, I need to be on my toes. There wasn't nobody in my tank with me that I had to worry about. There were a bunch of riffraffs. There was no Kumi over there. There was nobody that I would look at as a threat that would assist anybody, if they would have pulled into the gate and been like, "Hey, go ahead and get that fool." There was nobody over there like that. Some older cats, just some regular nobodies. But I knew that anytime I stepped outside of that gate right there on the tier, that it was a likelihood of something happening. So anytime I stepped out of there, wherever I was going, I knew I had to be on my toes, keep my head on a swivel. And that's what I did. So every other time that I went to a visit, I always had to not worry about getting into it with the Sureño or somebody like that, but it was always on my mind. This time though, it was with the Africanos. You know, I had to go out there thinking that it's a real possibility that I might get into it with the Africanos if some of them come up out of there, out of that tank. But not only that, I know how they function. I didn't have to just worry about the ones that were in that tank. They could have blasted a kite down the way this way or down the way that way and put other cats on notice. So I just told myself, anytime I step out on the tier from now on, it's on, at least until this blows over, if it does. So I get called for a visit that week. I go out to the visiting room. On my way out, though, I noticed that one of the youngsters that's in that tank ends up coming out with another cat that's a little older. So two of them come out, and I looked at them as a threat because they were part of that incident, and they were cats that I didn't know and I'd never talked to. So as far as I was concerned, they were considered threats. Now, I had another piece in the tank with me, but I couldn't get to it. I could not get to it because of the circumstances. If I would have went and got it where it was at, they would have seen me across the way because they were watching. The same way, our tanks faced each other. The same way it's kind of hard not to, watch what's going on over there. They did the same thing with our tank, but even more so now that this situation occurred. Those cats were watching me. So I couldn't retrieve the pedazo where I had it. Otherwise, I would have. So I had to leave it. I thought about it before I went to the visit, but I was like, you know what, if I do that, it's an act of aggression, straight up. It's like, you're going out to a yard and they let you out with your socks on, but you come out barefoot. It's a sign saying this fool's getting ready to do something. So I left it where it was at and I came out. So anyway, I get out to the visit. I'm out there with my daughter's mom, and we run our visit. We have a visit, 45 minutes, hour, whatever it is, 30 minutes. And at the conclusion of the visit, towards the end, I tell her, "Hey, look, I'm probably not going to be able to see you next week. I'm probably going to end up losing the visit." She was used to this, though. I used to tell her this practically every time I went out to a visit because a lot of times I would run into, Southsiders, upstaters. Shout out to all the Southsiders, man. But, I used to tell her, "Hey, you see that cat over there?" And she'd be like, "Yeah." And I'd be like, "Well, that's why I'm going to end up going to the hole right now." So this time, though, it was a little different because she looked around. She was like, why are you going to lose your visit? I don't see nobody looks like one of them guys, right? And I'm like, "No, it's not with them. It's with somebody else." I don't want to talk about it. I'm just telling you. Anyway, I put her on notice. So visit ends. She gets up. She walks out. I purposely fall back and let the rest of the visiting room I let them file out because I want everybody in front of me. That's security right there. I want everybody in front of me. I don't want nobody behind me. I don't want to, get stuck in a situation where I don't know what these cats are doing behind me. So, I get everybody in front of me. I got a visual on everything that's happening. So if something's going to kick off, I'm going to see it coming. So like I said, I fall back. I let everybody file out. Now, when you're going back from a visit, instead of coming the way that you came through the tier, what they do is they make you walk around. They make you go through A block. And I'm pretty sure I can get a picture of A block. When you Google it online, San Francisco County Jail, A block, it'll come up. So you should be seeing a picture of A block. So they make you walk down A block. It's a long hallway. And I used to be housed there actually for a while. And it's kind of cool. There's like six bunks to a cell right there, but it's cool. Anyway, so they make you walk down A block. And then you cut a corner, you cut to the right, and you cut another right, and then you're right there back on the tier where the housing areas are at. So I let everybody walk in front of me, and these guys are youngsters. They're not the most, they're not the most sharpest individuals because I get a visual on them, and I see the two that came out from across the hall, but then I see a third one that must have been from one of the other tanks. So I'm like, okay, so there's three of them. They're going to pack me out. So, everybody's walking down A block. These three, they stop. And, they're acting like they're talking to somebody that's in one of the tanks. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I don't know. But I know it's a ruse. They're waiting for me to catch up. And when I do, that's where it's going to pop off. So one of them that's talking, one of the main ones, he's talking on the gate, kind of leaning up into the gate, talking. And the other two, when they see me, they fall back and lean up against the wall. And they kind of kick their foot up like they're just posted up. So when I see that, I just like, okay, straight up, that's what they're doing. The other one that was on the gate talking to somebody, he turns around facing them. So now it's like these guys are just posted up there and they're facing each other. So they're really expecting me to walk through them. It's Ray Charles could have seen that one coming straight up. So, I'm like, here we go. So I walk up and I look at the youngster and I'm like, what's up, man? And he's like, what's up? He's like, hey, check it out, man. He's like, why you slide that Kisu to such and such? And as he's saying that, the other cat that came out of one of the other tanks, the one that I didn't know, I don't know what tank he came out of, but it was the third cat that they picked up somewhere. He kind of slides to my left. And, before I even get a chance to respond, this fool tries to snake me. I see it coming a mile away. He tries to snake me, and the fight's on, man. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of it. You guys are crazy, man. So we're going at it. Give him one more, Sam, man. Speed that shit up, boy. You guys are going to think I'm crazy, man. Anyway, so we start going at it. I got all three of them on me. Now, the only thing I could do was just backpedal all the way down. We fought all the way down from where they were at in A block all the way back to the laundry area. There's a laundry area at the end of the hallway right there. We ended up fighting all the way back. All three of them were on me. And that's all I could really do is just keep trading with these cats, but back up the whole way. So as soon as I come out the hallway, at the end where the laundry was at, I turn, I look, there's CO standing right there, and all I see is a little stream of fucking that OC, what is it, that OC spray. It comes in a they have one of those it's like a super soaker, like a fire extinguisher size cartridge or tank. So when he fired, it was like a stream of it that it was a direct hit right up my nose. I'm talking about a fat, thick stream, like I just snorted that shit. And I've said it before, plain that, I used to tell these guys, man, I'll put some of that on my sandwich. But that right there was a direct hit, and it was bad. It went straight down my throat, and just it got me instant. It dropped me instantly where I couldn't breathe. So anyway, they start spraying them, and we all get sprayed. We all end up getting sprayed. They put us down. We get proned out, and that's pretty much it. From that point on, they cuffed us up and they take us all. Those three cats went to ADSEG, where I usually would go every time I used to get into it with the Sureños. However, that particular time, because there was those three and it was me, I guess they didn't want to put us on the same tier. They ended up taking me down to the 6th floor and putting me in ADSEG down there. I would end up coming back up to the 7th floor again after that incident, but you guys are going to have to wait to hear what happened after that. Now, the politics were still, it was still fresh. 5 days had elapsed. I did my 5 days in ADSEG, and they put me back on the 7th floor, but everybody was still up there. The Africanos that were involved in the fight, I don't know what they did with them. They put them somewhere else, but they weren't on the 7th floor. They might have shipped them to the annex or something like that, but it didn't matter. There was still other Africanos there, and I knew I was going to still have issues with some of the other ones that were, there when all this happened. So anyways, I'm anxious to hear what you guys would have done in that situation right there. Again, it's a sensitive issue. There's a lot of sensitive issues in dealing with situations like that. Was it right? Was it wrong? Should I have done something else? Again, I honestly think I should have stayed neutral. I should have told him, hey, bro, come on, homie. You're putting me in an awkward situation by asking me that. Now, I would assist you in any other situation, but, you're asking me to kind of put my neck out there on the chopping block, and, it's going to cause some animosity between me and, Kumi, or my people in Kumi. It would have been the same thing as if there would have been an Africano that, would have assisted a rogue northerner that, for whatever reason, had fallen off, and there was an Africano that he asked for a pedazo. The Africano slides him the pedazo, and this northerner ends up taking off on us, and a couple of the homies end up getting stabbed after we stomped this fool out. Now, that Africano is going to be a target, straight up. So when I look at it like that and I really put it in perspective, hey, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, man. It's the same thing. So I understand, what they were feeling. And, again, though, on the flip side of it, this is an ally. And what was I supposed to do? Not assist them when there was an obvious threat, a threat that I seen myself. So I don't know. You guys weigh in on it. Keep it respectful, man. Because it is some things could be said that might be misinterpreted, or I don't want to get into all that. If that's the case, I'll just shut the comments down. Just give me some feedback, what you would have done, or you can just leave it the way it is, and just, you don't have to talk about your personal situations. Just tell me what you think about the choice that I made. There could have been a lot, like I said, if there would have been other northerners there on the 7th floor, would I have made a different choice based on that? I don't know. I don't know. I might not have, but in that situation, it could have got the homies involved, and it could have turned into something bigger. That wasn't even what that basically stemmed over something that wasn't our business. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Just give me your thoughts on it, and Tell me what you guys think. Anyways, this was a quick one. Hopefully you guys still liked it. It's something a little different, but give me your thoughts on it. Anyways, this episode 49, I'm gonna try to get you guys another one. I have a couple that I want to get out to you guys. Still working on some more profiles. I'm gonna hit you guys with the Q&A. So if you got questions, drop them in the community section. I need to get back to my old ways, man. Start doing Q&As and all that again. I'm still working on that profile. So it's moving like molasses. Anyways, you guys, this episode 49. We'll see about getting that live later on tonight. If not tonight, I'll see you guys on Sunday. With that said, I'm out.